Okay, my name is Leticia Duarte Benavidez. I'm a current county commissioner for District 5. I've been a commissioner for 3.5 years now, and I'm running again so that I can continue working on the issues that I'm more passionate about, and hopefully I help as many constituents as I can. And that's basically why I'm running for county commissioner. Thank you.
Benavidez-Krahling-Luchini, raised here in Las Cruces, native all my life. I'm running for District 5 Commissioner. I believe there's a lot of issues that need to be attended to, and hopefully we can attend to somehow one way or the other.
All right, well, this is going to happen.
My name is Scott Krahling, and I'm the current commissioner for District 4, which is the East Mesa. And because my house is west of I-25, redistricting moved me out of District 4 and put me into District 5. I think I've done a good job over the past 3 years. I've worked on many projects, some of which are still incomplete, and I'd like to continue to work on. And I think that comprehensive planning is going to be one of the biggest issues that we face in the next 4 years. In the county, and specifically for the northern part of the county, and I think I've proven that I'm effective with working with residents and working with staff to achieve the goals of the residents. So, thank you.
What should the county's response be to the $22 million judgment in the Stevens Levin case?
Well, we are appealing it, and I think that that's the right response. $22 million judgment is significant, and while I can't really talk about the specifics of the case, I can say that knowing what we know, that the responsible move is to appeal it. $22 million is a lot of money, and ultimately that judgment is going to come out of Doñana County, which means we're going to, if we're stuck holding the price tag at $22 million, it's going to negatively affect the services that we provide. And so I think there's no doubt that Slevin was not receiving adequate health care, but some of the other issues I think need to be worked out, and my expectation is that settlement will be reduced.
Benji, the same question. What do you think the county should do in response to that lawsuit?
I'm not familiar with the case, so I have been out of town for all these cases. With this one case in particular, I just heard bits and pieces of it. I think it should be repealed. I mean, not go forward with it. Find out why it wasn't attended to before.
Okay. Well, definitely we are appealing the case, and we feel that we need to really seriously look at these issues. We're working right now with the detention center staff to make sure that there's some kind of implementation that this won't happen again, and they are aware of it, and we are hopefully working on a crisis triage center that helps these patients, prisoners. They come into the detention center. We're not a hospital, so they come in with a lot of problems, and we need professional staff to evaluate these people and make sure that they get the adequate help. And hopefully the good things will come out of that. Thank you.
The county recently passed the Vision 2040 plan. Can you talk a little bit about that plan, and are there any changes or different priorities that you'd like to see be met in that plan?
No, I don't see any changes, but I think it is a good idea, and I've been fighting for more participation with the county residents to give us more ideas as to the 2040 plan, and I know it's going to be a good plan for the future, and I hope that I would like to see more participation by the county residents on this. Thank you.
Benji, are you familiar with just your thoughts on long-term planning and what you'd like to see the county move forward with? Any kind of changes in that area?
Well, I'm not familiar with any of what's going on right now, so I just have to read up on it and see what's going on.
Okay, fair enough.
When Vision 2040 came before us for the final vote, I voted against it. And I voted against it primarily because one section was really negative. It talked about economic development, it talked about jobs, and it talked about how one method of attracting jobs to this community was bad, and this other method was great. And I just didn't feel like a document like that should have any kind of negative statements inside of it. We ended up actually revising that, and so when it came before the Extraterritorial Zoning Authority, I ended up voting for it because the section was changed. And basically, I thought it was significant. We're talking about the overall umbrella vision for the county and growth, and I thought it was significant that the portion that talks about attracting jobs to this community illustrates an all-of-the-above approach. It didn't just say that economic gardening is the way to go, and going out and recruiting large employers doesn't work. Because I think going out and recruiting large employers does work, and I think that there's a lot of people at Union Pacific working on construction right now, and ultimately when that project's done, there's going to be a lot of people out there that would say, hey, let's get more big employers here. Let's get more people jobs here. Economic gardening is great, don't get me wrong, but we need to have all of the above approach. And so I initially voted against it because I wanted to make sure that people understood how serious I thought it was that section not be negative. And they revised it, and so I ended up voting for it. I think that the idea of the Las Cruces and Doña County and the other municipalities coming together and having a shared vision for the growth of the community is excellent. Obviously, it's a very difficult project. It took several years, and there were, I think, a lot of compromises that were made, and so it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do this. I think we're the first community in New Mexico that did it. So I think it's a good thing. But I felt the way I felt about it.
Okay. In January, the county passed a noise ordinance, and this really brings up an issue of balance. A lot of people move out of the city and move into the county because they like private property rights and they like to be able to do whatever they want to do on their own property. How do you, first of all, what are your thoughts on that specific ordinance, the noise ban, and how do you see the balance as you try to balance people's rights to do what they want to do on their own property, but also their neighbors' rights to be able to live in peace and quiet?
Well, we have that problem right now in our street. The noise, we have a person has got like 7 dogs and they bark all night long, but nobody complains about it. And I feel like they need to do, I don't know if they're doing stuff with the Humane Society or not. I mean, they need to try to keep them dogs quiet. I think if it balanced, if they would, I don't know how you keep them quiet, but it would balance out either way. But that's, I think if it'll work, it can balance out.
Thought first of all the specific question about the noise ordinance, and then the broader question about how do you balance property rights versus the rights of neighbors.
Well, I think that a lot of people who move out into the county, they go out because they love the open spaces and they love to make noise. Some people use, they like to use their vehicles or their motorcycles, or make noise out there, and that's fine. My problem is when it's excessive noise. For example, I have a lady who lives in Salem, and she said that there was a dance or a party going on next to her house, and this happens like every weekend. There's like 200 people going over there making noises, and then they trash out the place. But it's not only noise, it's trash, and so that's what I'm worried about, is the excessive noise from people out there in the county, and of course dogs. People are not responsible with their dogs, and so we need to balance these things out. And I'm glad that the noise ordinance finally, that the officers are able to go over there and tell people to quiet down. And because what's happening right now is people go out there, the officers go out there, and they cite the people, and they don't cite them, I'm sorry, they just warn them. 5 minutes later they take off, and 5 minutes later they're back again making their typical noises. But now that they have the ability to cite them, and they have to have a permit if they want to have a dance or a party or something like that, and which is great, because I think that we need to regulate the noise out in the county because it's too much for some people. And some people don't just party till 12 midnight. They go till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and it's just really a bad situation for everyone involved. So, but people that go out there and they live in a secluded area, they can make as much noise as they want. Nobody's going to report them. But it's the unauthorized noise that really bothers people. I understand that some people they like to yell at their kids in the middle of the whatever, but that's typical. But when it's unauthorized noise, that's when we get kind of upset about that.
Okay.
Well, before I give my complete vision of the noise ordinance, I just want to say that we haven't actually passed a noise ordinance yet. We've just been engaging the community in the discussion. And so while Commissioner Benavidez was talking about whether it's authorized or not, right now there's no ordinance. And so there's no protection. There's no sheriff's deputies can't go out and do anything. If your neighbor's having a big party and they're being too loud, there's very little that they can do in terms of noise. And so we're engaging the community in this. I think it's important that we spend a lot of time talking to the county residents because a lot of people go out there so that they can have ATVs and drive around. We have this great couple that comes out. They come to all of our meetings and they say, "Listen, we went out. We bought a big lot so that we can ride our motorcycles, so that we can ride our ATVs. Don't limit us. We understand that if we're doing it at 3 a.m., that it's inappropriate. But if we're doing it at 2 p.m., we should be allowed to do it." And I think I agree with that basic philosophy. And so balance is key. We asked the county staff to come up with an ordinance. And what they did, it seems to me like what they did is they threw everything into it. They said, let's start with everything. This is what the most extreme ordinance could look like in Doña County if we did. And I think now we have to go through and we have to pick out the things that aren't very reasonable. We don't, for instance, I don't necessarily think that we need daytime noise restrictions. Nighttime makes sense. I mean, we're trying to stop the parties, like Commissioner Benavidez was saying. I mean, if somebody's out partying at 3 a.m. or riding their motorcycles through the desert, there ought to be something that we can do about it. But we don't necessarily need to stop people from riding their motorcycles in the middle of the day. And so we started with this really comprehensive, let's do everything possible. And I think we're going through the process, and my expectation is that we end up with an ordinance that's much more, muted. Maybe it's not quite as comprehensive. Another key part of this is enforcement. How are we going to enforce this ordinance? That's anytime we're looking at passing a new law, that's to me one of the most important things. You pass a law that can't be enforced, what's the good of the law? It's just another rule in the book. And so one of the issues is how will it be enforced? Will all the officers have meters that can measure sound? And to me, I think that if we're going to do this, if we're going to do it right, we got to equip all the officers with the ability to measure sound and not do any, and not leave it to their subjective opinions on what is and what isn't too loud. We need to make it very, very clear.
Okay. And I thank you for the correction. I, for whatever reason, thought that was passed in January, but apparently that was just the discussion that took place in January.
And it's ongoing. We're still having.
Okay, very good.